Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Great Malabite Ifini. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning,
Rufai.
Good morning, sir.
We start the review with this day Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story: Federal Executive Council passes medium-term expenditure framework projects 26.01 trillion budget for 2024. Yes, Federal FEC passes medium-term expenditure framework projects 26.01 trillion budget for 2024. Benchmark crude oil price at $73.96 per barrel, projects 1.7 million barrels per day. Pegs dollar at 700 naira, justifies fresh $1.5 billion World Bank loan. Directs continuation of inherited 12,000 kilometers of road and 24 bridges. Says meeting will no longer hold weekly. Yes, I think this is the second time after inauguration that the Federal Executive Council met yesterday. And of course, the word there clearly is that we shouldn't expect a weekly Federal Executive Council meeting. That is the style of this president. And as our State House correspondent, this one Mora put it yesterday, it will be FEC meeting on demand. When they need it, they will schedule it. And perhaps that itself has its own implication because what it means. I want to believe that a lot of rigor going into FEC meeting. Ruben, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So without, because ministers discuss their papers, their presentations, what they're doing for their ministry, but in the absence of a regular FEC meeting, perhaps what we'll see now, the president's kitchen cabinet will take all the decisions and, of course, they just come and dump and rectify it at the Federal Executive Council meeting when it is scheduled. Well, some style, perhaps this president looking more like an imperial president than usual because with his kitchen cabinet, and of course, don't forget that you have his people, mainly by Lagos boys, as that's the make of his kitchen cabinet. So they'll be deciding most of the issues. And as a minister, if you don't have the ears of the president, perhaps we'll just wait for a long time before you can get attention. But again, this is the style of the president. Does it reflect teamship, which the president talked about? Well, I don't know whether, I don't think this really reflects teamship, because I thought a bigger body discussing major issues of various ministry, experts from other ministries, because many of these ministers, the areas of specialization by way of their training is not where they are presiding over right now. They can also use the Executive Council, Federal Executive Council, to make input. For instance, we have no less than 5 medical doctors in that cabinet. Well, but this is the way of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, of course, the details of what they approved yesterday, of course, the budget estimated 26.01 trillion naira, which included, of course, statutory transfers of 1.3 trillion naira, and of course, non-debt recurrent expenditure of 10.26 trillion naira. Of course, personnel debt service to go up 62% of this 26.01 trillion naira. Of course, government plans to peg the naira at 700 to the dollar, aka manage float, as it were. And of course, the government will also present and sign this budget before December 31. Now, some work going on there at the federal level. The President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration gaining traction. Now the budget is what is being discussed, and we'll see other details in the days ahead. Now, the Punch newspaper are also reporting this story: 2024 federal government 26 trillion budget, debt servicing to GOP 8.25 trillion naira. Personnel debt service to GOP 62%, government plans 700 naira to the dollar. Of course, federal government OK's 2024 to 2026 medium-term expenditure framework, and the president will present the budget soonest. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper also has that story as its lead. New Telegraph newspaper, federal government to present 26.01 trillion 2024 appropriation bill to National Assembly. Below the photograph in the front page of New Telegraph, fuel scarcity, NNPCL's stock insufficient. Independent Marketers Association of Nigeria are alleging. Says bad road, high diesel cost, also liable. Oil prices fall over anticipated US-Venezuela sanctions deal. Seized $9.8 million. Ex-NNPC GMD Andrew Yakubu to no fate November 1. Yes. Now, the Blueprint newspaper, the same lead story, the blueprint on the budget. Federal government projects 26 trillion 2024 budgets, $8 trillion naira for debt servicing. Now, the Guardian newspaper, at 1,000 naira to the dollar, 30% inflation, over 90% of Nigerians denied healthy diet. Yes, 90% plus Nigerians can't afford healthy diet. That is the situation in the country now. On affordability, if the cost exceeds 52% of an average household income. So for Nigerians, 95.9% of Nigerians cannot afford healthy diet. In Ghana, 61.2% cannot afford healthy diet, while in Cameroon, 60.07% cannot afford healthy diet. In South Africa, 65.2% cannot afford healthy diet. Of course, the graphics there, the front page of The Guardian. The Guardian, Nigeria's The Guardian newspaper. What you're putting on there is The Guardian of UK. Please put on The Guardian, Nigeria's The Guardian newspaper. You have it there. Now, if we look at the Daily Trust newspaper, food access drops as inflation hits 18-year high. Nigerians lament hunger, poverty. Farmers blame corruption, poor policy implementation. Prices drop in Taraba, but no money to buy. We are intensifying all year round food production. The federal government is giving that assurance. Perhaps that will ameliorate the situation if they get it right. Now, below the photograph, experts react as federal government proposes 26 trillion naira for 2024 budget. Now, the Daily Independent newspaper, CBN lifting FX ban on agri items put investments in sector at risk. A lot of farmers, entrepreneurs in the agri sector have borrowed money to put into their operations. But with these 43 items, including, of course, rice and amongst others, many of these farmers and investors in the agri sector will have their, of course, investments threatened. In fact, only yesterday, the Lagos state government complaining that it cannot get rice paddy for its big rice mill commissioned. I think earlier in the year.
But that was always a problem.
Yes.
We all know that. We all know getting paddy was a big problem for them.
Okay, but it's the biggest rice mill in the country, according to the governor, when it was commissioned. Now, the Leadership newspaper, despite 7 trillion investment, poor power supply lingers. Well, everybody can testify. Now, if we just look at one foreign newspaper, quickly, the Times of London, teenage sisters among Britons missing in Gaza. While, of course, the Washington Post reporting with aid blocked, Gaza crisis deepens. Ruben Rufai and I.
Very sad.
Yes.
The two ladies shown in the front page of the Times. Their father is missing. Their mother was killed. And this just shows the extent of the disaster that is going on in the Middle East. But quickly about the Federal Executive Council, where it's a creation of Section 148, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution. And what it says is that, look, the Federal Executive Council shall hold regular meetings to take decisions about domestic and foreign policies. Now, the problem with that Section 148, sub 2, is that it does not define regular meetings. But the custom, the convention has been that, look, previous president of Nigeria held meetings on a regular basis, particularly on Wednesdays. But the Constitution also does not say it must be on a particular day. But I think what Nigerians are concerned about is that this government has been there since May, June. And only yesterday, the second meeting was held. So where is transparency? Where is teamwork and all of that? But the same Constitution vests executive powers in the president. And the ministers are just advisors, more or less.
Ruben, one question. If you hold two meetings in 44 days, can that pass for regular?
Well, that's the matter of definition. But maybe we should get to a point in Nigeria where we take a second look at 148 and then say that, look, this section of the Constitution, Federal Executive Council meeting, should be held either bi-monthly or bi-weekly or whatever, so that regular meetings will be defined. Anyway, we seem to have run out of time. Thank you very much, Emmanuel.